We've been talking about conflict and particularly about the political frame, which is all about power and about getting your way. And I suggested that we're going to need to go through and look at a book from William Ury called Getting Past No. This book is designed to help us deal with the political frame without stepping into the political frame. And what the project comes out of the Harvard negotiation project. The first project that they had was a joint project of the Kennedy School of Government and the law school, where they have to do lots of negotiation. And it was a book called Getting to Yes. And it was about how to get agreement when both sides want to come to a mutually acceptable solution. That's nice. We've talked about that. What's more important is how do you get to the point where we can come to a solution when the other party doesn't necessarily want to come to a mutually acceptable solution. They just want what they want. But I want to come to something that's mutual. I can't dictate for the other person that you're going to have to compromise. What do I do in that kind of moment? And that's what this is for. And the first step on that is what they say is to know your BATNA. BATNA is B-A-T-N-A. And it's an acronym that stands for the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. So you need to know what your best alternative is to having some kind of negotiated agreement. And why is that important? It's especially important for Christians. Because Christians can get self-righteous, said the Christian. One of the things that I'm tempted to do at times is to walk away on principle. Well, if you're going to be that way, then I'm just going to walk away. And I'm going to get all snooty, and I'm going to say that I'm not going to step in. And in other words, if you're going to be in the political frame, I can't step into that. And so I'm just going to walk away. And there's times when that's the right thing to do. But before you do that, recognize what's the best outcome you can have. So let me tell you a story about how that knowing what a BATNA was changed the behavior that I had. We were selling our house. We were going to, I'd gotten this job at Claremont. I had been teaching Claremont, got this job at Fuller, and we were going to sell our house, and we were going to move to a new house. And we had put an offer on a house, and we'd gone through all the process, and we were, the offer had been accepted. And one of the things that you do in California is that there's a whole form that the seller has to fill out that says anything wrong with the house. So if there was some kind of crack in the foundation, or if there was some kind of thing, you'd have to disclose that. It's called a disclosure form. And we paid for then a home inspector to come and to inspect the house. So while we're still in this process where we've agreed on a price, but we haven't actually closed the deal yet. And the inspector comes and he says there's a number of things that were on the disclosure that they didn't disclose. They lied. Now, he didn't say they lied. He just said they were wrong. It's like they didn't get it. So we go back to the other guy's realtor and we said, there are these things that are wrong. And he said, yeah, of course they're wrong. We said, well, you didn't disclose them. Of course I didn't disclose them. I didn't want you to know. Well, California law says that you signed something at the end of that that says that you're culpable and that we could sue you if you didn't disclose. He goes, yeah, I just didn't want to disclose it. So what do you mean? He says, well, I don't like the price I'm getting for this house. You're not paying enough for this house, and I'm fed up with that. And so the last thing I'm going to do is tell you things that would allow you to get an even cheaper price. And yeah, you're right. And I said, well, there's $10,000 of repairs that need to be made in order for this to be up to the point where it's where you said you would disclose it. So we're going to propose to knock $10,000 off the price of the house. He goes, no. Now, his own realtor is sitting there saying, you can't do this. It's not legal. He's like, so sue me. Now, in that moment, I wanted to walk away from the deal. I really wanted to walk away from the deal because not only had he made me mad, he'd made my wife mad. And, it's one thing to make me mad, but it's another thing to make my wife mad. But here's the thing. I had done my homework. I had looked at the price and the value of every single house in that town. And I knew that if we didn't get this house, what we were going to do is we were going to have to pay $50,000 more for less house. So we could sue him. Now, my wife and I had a discussion and we decided that that was not an appropriate response for us. That's not a part of this conversation. We just did, let's take that off the table. Now, I say that because after class, every time I talk about this, somebody wants to come up and tell me why I should have sued them. That's not relevant to this conversation. We decided we were not going to sue them. So our choice was either to walk away or to accept the $10,000. And what we had to recognize is that if we walked away, it would cost us $40,000. The $10,000 plus another $40,000 to get to the $50,000 that the next priced house was going to cost us. And it would still be less. So we had a choice to either, we had to recognize that our best alternative to an agreement was going to cost us $50,000. And what we recognized is that cost kept us at the table. And we ended up eating that $10,000. Now, the thing of it is that the guy was right. We were getting a great deal on that house. If in the negotiating process, lo and behold, earlier on, he had asked us for $10,000 more, we would have paid it. We were getting that good a deal. We had to recognize that we weren't walking away on principle. I say this because I can't tell you how many Christians I know walk away from something on principle, and then they themselves end up bearing the brunt. And they feel very self-righteous all the way to bearing an enormous amount of pain. I have to recognize that I don't ever get to have righteous indignation. Now, other Christians, it's perfectly in bounds for others. But I recognize for myself that the reason I never get to have righteous indignation is because I never do it righteously. I pretend to be doing righteous indignation, but what I'm really doing is judgmental indignation. If we'd walked away from that, we would have said, look at how much better we were, and we would have been looking down our noses, and we would have been doing all sorts of things that were judgmental, that we could have walked away from a business deal, that's fine, but don't pretend to be righteous in doing it. I was judging that person, and I had to recognize that that was the case. So the first step in thinking about, or even before the first step, there's 5 steps, but step 0, before you even look at it, for getting past no, is to recognize the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. Recognize your BATNA.